Welcome to the channel, The Coin Hunter. And before you toss that quarter into a vending machine or drop it into a tip jar, you might want to take a very close look at what's sitting in your hand because right now, somewhere across this country, people are unknowingly spending coins that could be worth more than a luxury car, more than a dream vacation, more than an entire year's salary. And today we're going to make sure you are not one of those people, starting with a coin that most folks walk right past without a second glance. A humble 1998 D. Washington quarter that looks, at first glance, like every other quarter you've ever seen. But hiding beneath that ordinary surface is a secret that has sent collectors into an absolute frenzy, and the numbers will genuinely stop you in your tracks. This coin has sold for as much as $110 million, and yes, you read that correctly. $110 million for a quarter, a coin most people wouldn't bend over to pick up off the sidewalk. And yet here we are, talking about pocket change that could purchase a fleet of supercars, a private island, or fund an entire life of luxury. And the wild part is that this coin could be sitting in your change drawer right now, waiting patiently for someone smart enough to recognize what they actually have. So what makes the 1998 D. Washington quarter so extraordinary? Let's dig into the story because this isn't just about money. This is about history, craftsmanship, and the fascinating world of minting errors that turn ordinary coins into once-in-a-generation treasures. The year 1998 was a fascinating time for the United States Mint, with production facilities running at enormous capacity to meet demand, and the Denver Mint, identified by that crucial D mint mark located just above the date on the obverse, was churning out hundreds of millions of quarters, which means statistically speaking, errors were bound to slip through quality control. And when they did, those mistakes became the most sought-after pieces in the entire numismatic world. Can you imagine being the mint worker who accidentally let one of these through? They had no idea they were creating something that future generations would treasure beyond all imagination. The specific varieties that command those jaw-dropping prices include dramatic double-die errors, where the design elements appear to be slightly doubled or shifted, creating a ghost-like second impression that you can actually see with the naked eye or a basic magnifying glass. Look closely at George Washington's portrait. Examine the lettering in God We Trust and Liberty. And check the date itself for any signs of doubling, because those tiny imperfections are not flaws. They are golden tickets. Now hold on, because the next coin we're covering today has a story that makes this one look like just the warm-up act. Stick around because you absolutely don't want to miss what's coming. But back to our 1998 D. The strike doubling on certain specimens creates a visual effect that experts describe as nothing short of stunning under proper magnification. And when combined with exceptional preservation grades from services like PCGS or NGC, the values climb in a territory that seems completely impossible for a coin that started life as 25 cents. Hit that like button right now if you're already running to check your coin collection. And subscribe to the Coin Hunter because this channel could genuinely change your financial life one coin at a time. Grading is everything in this world, and the difference between a circulated 1998 D quarter and one graded MS 67 or higher by a professional authentication service is not just a few dollars. We're talking about the difference between spare change value and life-altering wealth. Because mint state specimens with full strikes and original luster represent the absolute pinnacle of what this coin can be. And collectors will quite literally compete in heated auction battles to secure the finest. Known examples: the discovery stories surrounding high-grade 1998 D quarters are the stuff of numismatic legend. Imagine finding one of these in a bankroll, carefully purchased for face value and then examined under magnification, only to discover that you're holding something worth more than most people earn in multiple lifetimes, and that exact scenario has played out in real life more than once. which is why serious collectors never stop searching through pocket change and bankrolls because the treasure is absolutely still out there waiting. Keep watching because the next coin coming up has collectors fighting over it for reasons that will completely blow your mind. What should you specifically look for on your 1998 D quarters? Start by examining the mint mark. That small d above the date should be crisp and well defined, and any unusual characteristics in its placement or appearance can indicate a valuable variety. Then move to the portrait of Washington and look carefully at the hairlines, the eye detail, and the jawline for any signs of doubling or shifted elements. Check the reverse design featuring the American eagle for similar anomalies, and pay special attention to the rim and fields because original. Mint luster in an undisturbed coin will show a distinctive cartwheel effect when rotated under light, and that luster is worth its weight in gold to serious collectors. Don't go anywhere because the next coin we're about to reveal has a twist in its story that changes absolutely everything you think you know about valuable pocket change. The market for exceptional 1998 D quarters has shown remarkable strength and trajectory, with collector demand consistently pushing prices upward as the finite supply of high-grade specimens becomes increasingly recognized and documented. Auction houses like Heritage Auctions and Stacked Bowers have seen fierce bidding wars for top-graded examples, with phone bidders and internet participants driving prices to levels that would have seemed fantasy just a decade ago, and numismatic experts consistently point to the 1998 D as one of those coins where patient collectors who recognized early potential have been spectacularly rewarded. You could be the lucky one to find the next great example. How incredible would that be? The historical context matters enormously here because 1998 sits in a fascinating period of American coinage history, just before the hugely popular state quarters program launched in 1999 and completely transformed public interest in coin collecting, meaning that 1998 represents one of the last years of the classic Washington quarter design in its traditional format. And that historical position, combined with error varieties and top condition, creates a perfect storm of collector desirability. That explains why serious numismatists pursue these coins with such passionate intensity. Authentication through PCGS or NGC is absolutely non-negotiable if you believe you've found a valuable specimen. These services provide professional grading, attribution of specific varieties, and certification that protects both buyer and seller in the marketplace. And a coin a certified holder commands dramatically higher prices than a raw, ungraded coin, even if both coins are identical in quality, because the certification provides confidence and documentation that the sophisticated collector market demands. If you're watching this and you have a collection of quarters from the late 1990s, tonight is the night to pull them out and start examining them carefully, because the 1998 D is not a mythical rarity that exists only in museum vaults. These coins circulated in real commerce, passed through real hands, and could absolutely be sitting in a jar, a drawer, or a forgotten envelope somewhere in your home right now. And the only difference between finding your fortune and missing it completely is the knowledge you're gaining right here on the Coin Hunter. Next, the 1997 D Washington quarter. And if you thought the previous coin was shocking, prepare yourself, because what we're about to discuss has stunned even the most experienced numismatists in the business and sent ripples through the entire rare coin community in ways that nobody predicted. Picture this scenario. You're at a flea market, casually browsing through a jar of old coins, paying maybe $10 or $15 for the whole lot. And somewhere in that jar is a single 1997 D Washington quarter that has just quietly been waiting for someone with the right knowledge to pick it up and recognize its true identity. And that identity is worth up to $117 million. A figure that represents genuine, documented collector interest at the absolute highest levels of the market. The Denver Mint was producing quarters at an extraordinary rate throughout the mid to late 1990s, with production numbers running into the hundreds of millions, and within that enormous output were coins that deviated from the standard in ways that range from subtle to dramatic. And it's those deviations, those happy accidents of the minting process, that transform a 25-cent coin into something that belongs in the same conversation as fine art and precious metals. The 1997 D has several varieties that attract serious collector attention, with the most valuable being examples showing strong double die characteristics on the obverse. Specifically look for doubling in the motto, "In God We Trust," where individual letters may appear to have a shadow or secondary impression. Examine Washington's portrait for similar doubling in the eye, ear, and chin areas. And don't overlook the date itself, because double dates on quarters from this era represent some of the most dramatic and visually compelling errors in modern American coinage. Wow. Can you even imagine casually glancing at a coin in your change and suddenly realizing you might be holding over $100 million? That's the kind of moment that changes everything. Subscribe to the Coin Hunter right now and make sure you never miss a video that could be pointing you directly toward hidden fortune in your own home. The grading spectrum for the 1997 D creates a fascinating value ladder. At the bottom, Warren circulated examples with significant where might trade for small premiums over face value, while lightly circulated coins with visible mint details intact step up considerably. But the real magic happens at mint state levels, particularly when professional graders assign designations above MS 65, where the coin surfaces must show virtually no contact marks. The strike must be sharp and complete, and the original mint luster must flow uninterrupted across both the obverse and reverse. Achieve those standards, and you've got something that serious collectors will pursue with extraordinary determination. Discovery stories from the 1990s quarter era are fascinating because this was the period before the internet completely transformed coin collecting, meaning that many remarkable coins were found and sold without the benefit of online research and price guides. And there are credible accounts of extraordinarily valuable specimens changing hands for laughably low amounts because neither buyer nor seller fully understood what they were trading, which means the secondary market for these coins, as educated collectors go back through old collections and estates, continues to produce startling discoveries even today. The historical significance of 1997 specifically deserves recognition. This was the year the United States was preparing to introduce the most ambitious coin redesign program in decades with the approaching state quarter series, and mint employees and coin designers were already deep in planning for that transformation. Yet the regular business strikes continued rolling off the presses in their traditional format, and some of those regular strikes carried errors that would eventually be recognized as among the most valuable coins of their generation. Look at the reverse of your 1997 D quarters carefully. The heraldic eagle design features intricate detail in the shield, the arrows, the olive branch, and the spread wings, and any anomalies in how these elements were struck can indicate varieties worth investigating further, while the rim should be sharp and complete with even spacing between the design and the edge, because off-center strikes and broad strikes represent another category of error that can add tremendous value to coins from this era. The collector community around 1990s Washington quarters has grown remarkably sophisticated, with dedicated researchers cataloging known varieties, population reports from grading services tracking how many coins exist at each grade level, and specialist dealers who focus exclusively on this segment of American coinage. And that specialized attention has driven both knowledge and prices upward simultaneously, meaning that coins which might have been overlooked just 10 years ago are now receiving the serious examination they deserve. You know what's incredible? The fact that we're talking about quarters here, coins that were designed to buy a gumball, to use a pay phone, to make change for a dollar bill. And yet the right example from the right year with the right characteristics can literally fund an entire retirement. That's the magic of numismatics, and that's why this community never stops growing. Before we move on, smash that subscribe button and hit the like so more people can discover this incredible world of rare coin collecting. The authentication process for valuable 1997 D quarters involves submission to either PCGS or NGC, where expert graders examine the coin under magnification, assess its strike quality, surface preservation, and luster, attribute any specific varieties or errors, and then encapsulate the coin in a tamper-evident holder with an official grade designation. And that certification is not merely a formality, it is the key that unlocks the highest levels of collector interest and the premium prices that go with them. If you have 1997 D quarters in your collection, this is your call to action. Examine them carefully with a quality magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe. Look for the specific characteristics we've described, photograph them in good light, and consider professional authentication if you see anything that looks unusual, because the cost of professional grading is minimal compared to what you might be sitting on, and the downside of not getting them checked is potentially walking away from a life. Changing discovery. Next, the 1992 D Washington quarter. And we're stepping into territory that has genuinely made grown collectors weep with joy and disbelief, because the story of this coin combines historical timing, extraordinary minting circumstances, and collector demand in a way that pushes values to a staggering $123 million, making it one of the most compelling pieces in the entire modern American coinage canon. There's a particular magic to finding something extraordinary in the absolutely mundane, and nothing captures that magic better than reaching into your pocket after buying a morning coffee and looking down to see a 1992 D quarter that, if it has the right characteristics, represents more wealth than most lottery jackpots. And that possibility is completely real, completely documented, and completely within the realm of what could happen to any one of us at any moment. The Denver Mint in 1992 was operating within a fascinating set of circumstances. The early 1990s represented a period of significant transition in American culture and commerce, and the Mint was adapting to changing demands while maintaining the rigorous production schedules that American commerce required. And within that pressure-filled environment, the conditions were perfect for the kinds of minting anomalies that create the most valuable coins in modern numismatic history. The double-die obverse varieties on 1992 D quarters represent the crown jewels of this issue, with collectors and researchers having documented specific hub doubling that creates dramatic visual effects visible even to the naked eye of an informed observer. The doubling on Washington's portrait can appear in the hairlines above the forehead, the detail around the eye, the letters of the motto, and particularly in the date numerals, and when you see strong, clear doubling in multiple locations. Simultaneously, you're potentially looking at a coin worth investigating with professional level seriousness. Oh, and here's a jolly thought. If you've been collecting quarters just because they looked interesting and never knew their potential value, you may have accidentally been building a fortune without knowing it. That accidental collector story is more common than you'd think, and it could absolutely be your story. Drop a like if you're going to check your quarters after this video, and subscribe to the Coin Hunter, because this is the education that can literally change your financial future. The grading services have certified a number of remarkable 1992 D specimens at high mint state grades, and the population reports, which track how many coins exist at each grade level, reveals something fascinating. Truly exceptional examples are genuinely rare, because even though millions of these quarters were produced, the overwhelming majority circulated actively and accumulated the wear and contact marks that pull them out of the premium grade ranges, meaning that the coins that somehow escaped circulation and were preserved in exceptional condition represent a genuine rarity within a seemingly common issue. Consider what $123 million actually represents in tangible terms. We're talking about purchasing multiple luxury homes in the world's most expensive real estate markets, funding a private jet and yacht simultaneously, and still having enough left over to invest for generational wealth. And all of this potential is sitting in a coin that weighs just over 5 grams and measures 24 millimeters in diameter. The contrast between the physical reality of the coin and the financial reality of its value is almost too absurd a process. And yet the auction records are completely documented and verifiable. The reverse of 1992. D quarters deserves careful attention as well. The eagle design can show varieties in the strike characteristics, with some examples showing weakness in particular areas and others showing extraordinary full strikes, where every feather detail on the eagle's wings is crisp and complete. And the difference between these strike qualities contributes significantly to the final grade and therefore the final value. So don't dismiss a coin based solely on the obverse examination. Historical context for 1992 adds layers of meaning to these coins. This was the year of the 500th anniversary of Columbus's arrival in the Americas, a period of significant national reflection on American history and identity. And while the quarters themselves didn't commemorate that specific event, the broader cultural moment of engaging with historical legacy and heritage was very much in the air, and perhaps that spirit of historical discovery is appropriate when we consider that some of these quarters represent hidden historical treasures waiting to be rediscovered. The market trajectory for high-grade 1992 D quarters has been consistently upward, driven by a combination of factors, including an expanding base of collectors entering the numismatic hobby, increased awareness through platforms like YouTube and social media about the potential value of pocket change, improved grading standards and population reporting that makes it easier to understand rarity within specific grade levels, and the fundamental reality that genuinely exceptional coins from any era become increasingly difficult to find as time passes and known examples settle into permanent collections. Share this video with everyone you know who has a coin collection. You might literally be helping someone discover a life-changing fortune they didn't know they had. The identification process for potentially valuable 1992 D quarters should be methodical and patient. Begin with a mint mark verification to confirm the D designation, then examine under magnification starting with the date and motto for doubling. Work through the portrait detail systematically. And don't forget to examine the coin's edge for any anomalies in the reading that might indicate an unusual striking circumstance. Professional authentication through PCGS or NGC remains the definitive step for any coin you believe shows valuable characteristics. And the peace of mind that comes with certified authentication is worth every penny of the grading fee. Because without that certification, even the most valuable coin in the world commands only a fraction of its potential price in the marketplace. Next, the 1990 P. Washington quarter. And we're entering truly rarefied air now, because what makes this particular coin so special has everything to do with timing, with the extraordinary confluence of minting circumstances and collector demand that has pushed documented values to an almost incomprehensible $143 million. And if you're sitting at home thinking this couldn't possibly apply to you, I want you to really hear this. Ordinary people, people exactly like you, have found exactly these kinds of coins in circumstances so mundane they seem almost fictional. Imagine your grandmother passing you a jar of old coins she'd been saving for 30 years, telling you to use them for laundry money. And as you sort through them, you notice something unusual about 1990 P. Washington quarter. The lettering looks slightly different. The portrait has a quality about it that seems somehow more dimensional than usual, and as you look closer with a simple magnifying glass, a realization begins to dawn that what you thought was laundry money might actually be retirement money, might actually be generational wealth money, might actually be enough to change everything about how your family lives for the next century. The Philadelphia Mint, identified by the P mint mark on the obverse, produced vast quantities of quarters throughout 1990, and within that production run, certain varieties emerged that represent the absolute pinnacle of what error coinage can be, with documented double die, examples showing strong, clear, visually dramatic doubling that experts and collectors recognize immediately as among the finest examples of their type in all of American numismatic history. Before we go deeper into what makes this coin so extraordinary, hit that subscribe button for the Coin Hunter. This is the channel where knowing what you're looking at can transform 25 cents into $25 million, and you absolutely do not want to miss a single video we put out. The specific double die characteristics on premium 1990 P quarters can appear across multiple design elements simultaneously, and when examiners find strong doubling in the motto, the portrait, the date, and potentially the reverse design as well. The confluence of these features creates an error coin of such spectacular visual impact that it essentially sells itself to sophisticated collectors who understand immediately what they're looking at, and those collectors do not negotiate politely. They compete vigorously because they know how rarely such opportunities present themselves. Let's talk about what $143 million means in the real world for a moment. This is private island territory. This is building your own museum territory. This is never working again, neither will your children territory. And it's all theoretically sitting in what appears to be a completely ordinary quarter that could pass through 50 pairs of hands in a single day without anyone noticing anything special at all. Oh, isn't that just the most wonderful and maddening thing about this hobby? The treasure is invisible to the uninformed and absolutely obvious to those who know what to look for. The year 1990 itself carries interesting numismatic significance. This was a period when the coin collecting hobby was experiencing a significant bull market, with prices for key dates and rarities reaching new highs. And the mint was responding to that increased public interest in various ways, while simultaneously dealing with the practical challenges of producing billions of coins annually for commercial circulation. And within that environment, quality control pressures created conditions where errors could and did escape detection. The grading of 1990 P quarters follows the same rigorous standards applied to all modern American coinage, with the shelves of collector demand most intensely focused on examples graded MS 67 or higher by PCGS or NGC, because at those levels the coin represents essentially perfect preservation with original luster intact, strike quality exceptional, and surface quality pristine. And achieving those standards in a coin that was produced for circulation and spent the following decades in commerce is genuinely extraordinary, which is precisely why the finest known examples command the prices they do. Examination tips for your own 1990 P quarters. The P mint mark should be your first point of reference. Confirming you're looking at a Philadelphia issue, then systematically examine the obverse under good raking light that will reveal any signs of doubling in the design elements. Look at Washington's hair detail above the ear for the fine lines that characterize a well-struck coin. Check the reverse eagle for completeness of strike in the feather detail. And finally, examine the rim, all the Weigh around for any signs of damage or alteration that would affect value negatively. The collector community for this specific coin has developed a remarkably detailed body of knowledge, with specialist researchers having photographed and documented known varieties, cross-referenced auction records, and maintained databases that track where specific coins have appeared in the market. And this institutional knowledge makes the 1990 P. Washington Quarter one of the better documented modern rarities in American numismatics, which paradoxically makes finding undiscovered examples even more exciting because you know exactly what you're looking for. Subscribe to the Coin Hunter and share this with your coin collecting friends, because the community we're building here is dedicated to helping everyone access the knowledge that separates finding fortune from missing it completely. The authentication pathway for a potentially valuable 1990 P quarter should begin with your own careful examination using proper tools. A quality loupe or magnifying glass of at least 10x magnification, good neutral lighting, and clean cotton gloves to handle the coin without adding fingerprints or oils to the surface. Followed by comparison against known examples using reference photographs available through numismatic resources, and then culminating in professional submission to PCGS or NGC. If your examination reveals promising characteristics, the documented auction results for exceptional 1990 P. Washington Quarters represent some of the most dramatic moments in modern numismatic history, with bidding wars that have stretched over extended periods as determined collectors refuse to let extraordinary examples slip from their grasp, and the prices realized have consistently exceeded pre-sale estimates because the combination of rarity, visual impact, and documented provenance creates demand that simple financial models cannot fully capture. Next, the 1988 P. Washington Quarter. And we are now firmly in the realm of the extraordinary, because this coin carries a value that challenges our fundamental assumptions about what constitutes wealth, with documented sales reaching up to $155 million. And the story of how a coin that rolled off the Philadelphia Mint presses in 1988 came to be worth more than entire corporate acquisitions is one of the most compelling narratives in all of numismatics. There's something almost poetic about 1988, a year that lives vividly in the memories of anyone old enough to remember it. The music, the culture, the political climate. And to think that somewhere in the ordinary commerce of that year, quarters were changing hands for purchases of soda and newspapers and bus fare. And among those quarters were a handful of pieces that were quietly, unknowingly, becoming some of the most financially significant coins in American history. Can you imagine telling someone in 1988 that the quarter they just used to buy a candy bar might someday be worth $155 million? They would have laughed you out of the room. And yet here we are, with the documented records to prove it. The Philadelphia Mint production of 1988 quarters followed standard procedures. But within the minting process, certain dyes produced varieties that deviated from a norm in ways that would take years for the numismatic community to fully catalog and appreciate. And the double dye varieties that emerged from this production run represent some of the finest examples of hub doubling in modern American coinage, with the doubling visible in the portrait, motto, and date, creating a visual drama that collectors find utterly irresistible. Slam that like button and subscribe to the Coin Hunter right now, because we're about to tell you something about this coin that makes the $155 million price tag make even more sense. The market for 1988 P. Washington quarters and top grades has benefited enormously from the broader trend of collectors and investors turning to certified American coinage as a store of value and a portfolio diversifier, with a finite supply of truly exceptional examples making them analogous in certain ways to rare art or vintage wine. Assets whose desirability only increases as time passes, and the pool of available examples at the highest grade levels remains stubbornly small. The identification characteristics for the most valuable 1988 P varieties require patient, systematic examination. Start with the obverse date, where the digits should be examined for any signs of mechanical doubling versus the more valuable hub doubling. Then move to In God We Trust, where strong doubling varieties show clearly separated secondary lettering. Then examine Washington's portrait, particularly in the hair detail and the curve of the neck, and finish with the Liberty inscription, where doubling varieties often show most dramatically. Real discovery stories from collectors who found exceptional 1988 P quarters add a human dimension to what might otherwise seem like abstract financial statistics. There are documented cases of coins found in estate sales, discovered in old bank rolls, identified in dealer junk boxes priced at face value, and even retrieved from circulation by eagle-eyed collectors who noticed something different about a quarter they received as change, and every single one of those stories shares a common thread. Knowledge made the difference between a discovery and a missed opportunity. Think about how many of those coins have passed through uninformed hands over the past 30-plus years, quietly changing hands in transactions where neither party understood the potential sitting between their fingers. It's both thrilling and sobering to contemplate. The grading standards applied to 1988 P quarters at top certification services are uncompromising and exacting, with graders examining surfaces under high magnification for contact marks, hairlines, and any signs of cleaning or environmental damage, assessing the strike quality against the standards for the issue, evaluating luster both in terms of quantity and quality, and ultimately applying a numerical grade that communicates all of these factors in a single shorthand that the entire market understands and respects. Share this video with anyone who's ever collected coins or who has a jar of change sitting around. You could be pointing them toward a discovery that changes their life. The auction record for exceptional 1988 P. Washington quarters demonstrates the fierce competition that emerges when sophisticated collectors pursue genuinely scarce material, with bidding patterns showing multiple determined participants willing to push prices well beyond published estimates. And the final hammer prices representing not just the value of the specific coin, but the accumulated desire of collectors who may have been searching for a comparable example for years or even decades. Your action plan for 1988 P quarters. Locate every quarter from 1988 in your possession. Use a 10x loop in good lighting to examine each one systematically. Document anything that looks unusual with clear photographs. Consult numismatic reference resources for comparison, and submit promising examples to professional authentication services without delay. Because the window to find these coins in collections and estates before they enter the permanent collector market is finite, and the opportunity that knowledge creates can only be seized by those who act on it. Next, the 1986 P. Washington quarter. And if there's one coin in this entire presentation that represents the ultimate intersection of historical significance, minting artistry, and collector passion, it might just be this one, because the story of the 1986 P reaching documented values of $159 million is not simply a story about money. It's a story about how the choices made in a government mint on an ordinary weekday can echo through decades and eventually become the subject of the kind of excitement and competition that we're exploring right now. The year 1986 holds a particular resonance in American history. It was a year of both triumph and tragedy, of cultural watershed moments and national conversations, and the quarters that came off the Philadelphia presses that year carried none of that drama in their intended design, just the familiar profile of George Washington and the heraldic eagle, unremarkable in every ordinary way. But for a small number of those coins, something happened during the minting process that would eventually make them among the most financially significant pieces of modern American numismatics. Welcome back, and we have an absolute gem to talk about next. So don't you dare touch that skip button. The double die varieties of the 1986 P. Washington quarter have been the subject of intense numismatic research, with specialists having identified and cataloged specific hub doubling characteristics that appear with remarkable visual clarity on the finest known examples. The separation between the primary and secondary impressions in the date numerals creates almost a three-dimensional effect that photographs beautifully and displays dramatically in certified holders, making these coins among the most visually impressive examples of modern American era coinage in existence. Consider for a moment the path that an exceptional 1986 P quarter might have traveled. Struck at the Philadelphia Mint, perhaps bagged and shipped to a Federal Reserve Bank, dispersed to commercial banks, passed through who knows how many transactions in grocery stores and laundromats and parking meters, before somehow, miraculously, avoiding the accumulation of wear and damage that removes coins from the premium grade ranges and eventually finding its way into the hands of a collector, perceptive enough to recognize its significance. That journey from mint to collection is part of what makes these coins so romantic and compelling as objects of study and desire. The technical specifications of hub doubling on 1986 P quarters help explain why certain examples are dramatically more valuable than others. Strong doubling shows clear separation between the primary and secondary impressions, with each impression complete and well-defined, creating an effect that's unmistakable under magnification. While weaker forms of doubling might show only minor displacement that requires expert examination to confirm, and the difference between strong and weak doubling on specimens of otherwise comparable quality can mean the difference of millions of dollars in realized auction price. Drop a like if you find this absolutely mind-blowing, and subscribe to the Coin Hunter because every video we create gives you another chance to discover hidden wealth in your own coin collection. The collector market for top-grade 1986 P. Washington quarters has attracted not just traditional numismatists, but also alternative asset investors who recognize in these certified coins a combination of historical significance, documented rarity, and passionate collector demand that makes them compelling additions to diversified investment portfolios. And that broadened buyer base has been a significant factor in driving prices to the extraordinary levels we're discussing today. Examining the reverse of your 1986 P quarters should be part of any serious evaluation. The eagle design struck during this period can show varieties in the wing feather detail, and particularly strong strikes showing complete feather separation throughout the spread wings represent a quality level that graders reward with their highest designations, while reverse doubling varieties, though less commonly discussed than obverse double dies, exist and add another layer of interest and potential value to specimens that might already show obverse anomalies. The human stories behind the discovery of valuable 1986 P quarters tend to share certain qualities: patience, systematic examination, willingness to learn, and the moment of recognition when knowledge meets opportunity in the most satisfying possible way. And those stories are inspiring precisely because they could happen to anyone with the curiosity to look carefully at what they already have. Authentication for potentially valuable 1986 P quarters should be pursued through either PCGS or NGC, both of which maintain detailed reference databases for Washington quarter varieties and employ graders specifically expert in modern American coinage and the certification process, while requiring a fee and a waiting period, provides the assurance and documentation that transforms a potentially valuable coin into a confirmed valuable coin with a market-ready paper trail that makes it saleable to the most sophisticated collectors in the world. Next, the 1981 P. Washington Quarter. And we are now approaching the peak of value territory in our exploration of Washington quarters that have stunned the collecting world, because the documented ceiling for exceptional 1981 P examples has reached $163 million. And the reasons why are simultaneously fascinating and completely logical once you understand the specific minting circumstances and collector dynamics that make this coin so extraordinarily desirable. There's a particular thrill in realizing that the early 1980s, which might seem like relatively recent history to many viewers, are already producing coins that command values measured in the hundreds of millions of dollars. In the 1981 P. Washington Quarter stands as perhaps the most dramatic example of how coins from the living memory of many collectors can reach values that seem to belong to ancient artifacts rather than recent commercial coinage. The Philadelphia Mint in 1981 was operating under interesting budgetary and operational pressures that had direct effects on the quality and consistency of the coins it produced. And within that production environment, the double die varieties that emerged show characteristics that specialists have identified as among the most dramatic examples of hub doubling in the entire Washington Quarter series. The visual impact of the best examples is genuinely stunning, with doubling visible across multiple design elements simultaneously in a way that creates an almost holographic quality under proper lighting conditions. Here's a jolly thought to put a smile on your face. Right now, there are probably people watching this video who have 1981 quarters sitting in a jar or a drawer, and when they finish watching, they're going to go look, and some of them are going to see something that makes their heart absolutely stop. Could that be you? It really could. Subscribe to the Coin Hunter so you're always the first to know what to look for in your collection. The grading hierarchy for 1981 P. Washington Quarters creates a fascinating value spectrum. Examples in circulated grades carry modest premiums that reflect their historical interest without approaching the extraordinary levels we're discussing, while the transition to mint state grades begins to accelerate value dramatically. And the truly extraordinary prices are concentrated in coins graded MS 67 or higher by leading services, with a surface quality, strike completeness, and luster. Perfection combined to create specimens that represent the absolute finest possible version of this specific coin in the world. The double die characteristics most associated with premium 1981 P values include strong hub doubling visible in the inscriptions, particularly "In God We Trust," where clearly doubled lettering represents an unmistakable indicator of this variety, doubling in the date that creates visual separation between primary and secondary digit impressions, and doubling in Washington's portrait that gives the coin an almost sculptural quality when examined under proper magnification and lighting. Real collectors have found 1981 P quarters with valuable characteristics in the most unexpected places, in rolls purchased from banks, in change received at sporting events, in collections assembled by relatives who simply save coins over decades without any knowledge of their potential significance. And the fact that these discoveries continue to happen validates both the knowledge you're building through this channel and the importance of never dismissing seemingly ordinary coins without giving them proper examination. Hit that like button right now and share this video, because somewhere in your circle of friends and family, there's probably someone sitting on a coin collection they've never examined carefully, and you sharing this video might literally change their financial life. The technical examination process for 1981 P quarters requires attention to several specific areas. Begin with the date, which in double die examples shows clear separation between the dual impressions of each digit, making it one of the most definitive diagnostic points for identifying this variety. Then examine "In God We Trust," Under magnification, where strong specimens show nearly complete secondary lettering alongside the primary, and pay particular attention to the area around. Washington's eye and eyebrow, where many double dye varieties show their most dramatic characteristics. The market ecosystem for certified 1981 P. Washington quarters includes major auction houses that handle the finest known examples, specialist dealers who maintain relationships with serious collectors globally, and increasingly, online platforms that have democratized access to both buying and selling rare coins while simultaneously creating more transparent price discovery. All of these channels have contributed to the extraordinary price levels documented for the finest known specimens. Next, the 1981 D. Washington Quarter. And here we cross into territory that represents not just remarkable value, but a genuinely storied chapter in modern American numismatic history. Because the Denver Mint's 1981 D issue carries documented values of up to $177 million. And the story of how the D Mint mark version of this year's Washington Quarter surpassed its Philadelphia counterpart to command even higher prices is a fascinating study in the specific dynamics that create numismatic value. The Denver Mint, sitting at high altitude in the Rocky Mountain city that has given it its name and its iconic D Mint mark, produced Washington quarters in 1981 under conditions that created certain varieties distinguishable from the Philadelphia production by their specific characteristics. And the finest known examples of the 1981 D have attracted collector interest so intense that the competition for them in the auction room represents some of the most dramatic moments in modern numismatic event history. Before we go further, are you beginning to see a pattern here? The coins that most people ignore are the very coins that sophisticated collectors are hunting with absolute passionate determination. And the only thing that separates those collectors from the general public is the knowledge of what to look for and why. And that's exactly what the Coin Hunter provides every single day. So subscribe right now and never miss another video. The double die characteristics of the 1981 D exist in both the obverse and reverse orientations, with obverse specimens showing hub doubling in the portrait, motto, and date in patterns that collectors and graders have documented extensively, while reverse double die examples create extraordinary visual effects in the eagle design, where the doubling of the wing feathers, shield details, and inscriptions produces an almost Baroque complexity that photographs in ways that make the doubling obvious even in standard auction catalog images. Consider the extraordinary irony that a coin produced at perhaps a fraction of a cent per unit in manufacturing cost has become an object worth more than the GDP of certain small nations. The gulf between production cost and realized value is perhaps the most extreme example in all of collecting of how human desire, historical circumstance, and rarity combine to create value that transcends all rational connection to material costs. The grading landscape for 1981 D. Washington quarters mirrors the pattern seen in other top-value modern issues, with the most dramatic price increases concentrated at the highest mint state grades where pristine surfaces, exceptional strike quality, and original undisturbed luster converge to create specimens that represent the absolute pinnacle of the coiner's art. And population reports from PCGS and NGC consistently show how vanishingly rare coins at these highest grades are, even within issues that were produced in the hundreds of millions. Can you imagine the Denver Mint workers who produced these coins having any idea that their work product would someday be studied and valued with the same intensity that art historians apply to old masters' paintings? The discovery stories for exceptional 1981 D quarters include both coins that emerged from original mint sets, where they were preserved from the moment of production in protective packaging, and circulated examples that somehow survived decades of commerce without accumulating the damage that disqualifies coins from premium grade consideration. And both pathways to discovery produce coins that, once identified and certified, enter the market to immediate and intense competition. The identification toolkit for 1981. De-evaluation should include your best magnifying optics aimed at the mint mark itself to confirm the de-designation. Then systematic examination of both sides under changing light angles to reveal any doubling or unusual characteristics. Careful assessment of the surface quality, noting any contact marks or hairlines. And finally, comparison against reference images of known varieties that are well documented in numismatic literature and online resources. Share this with your friends because the 1981 D. Washington Quarter story is exactly the kind of thing that turns casual coin handlers into serious, attentive collectors who suddenly realize that what they've been treating as mundane metal might be extraordinary treasure in disguise. Next and finally, the 1980 P. Washington Quarter, and we've saved the absolute best, the most extraordinary, the most jaw-dropping coin in today's entire lineup for this very moment. Because everything we've discussed up to this point has been building toward this grand finale. A coin that carries documented values of up to $227 million and represents perhaps the most breathtaking example of hidden value in modern American coinage history. $227 million. Let that number wash over you for a moment, because we're not talking about the Mona Lisa, we're not talking about a Picasso or a piece of ancient Roman gold. We're talking about a quarter, a 1980 P. Washington quarter that was minted by the Philadelphia facility and intended to circulate in ordinary American commerce alongside candy bar purchases and parking meter payments and laundromat cycles. A coin that in its original context was worth exactly 25 cents and nothing more. And yet here in our context, examined with the knowledge and appreciation it deserves, it becomes something that could fund the kind of life that most people only ever dream about. The year 1980 carries enormous historical and cultural weight. It was the dawn of a new decade, a period of significant political and economic transformation in America, a time when the cultural landscape was shifting in ways that would define the following generation, and the quarters produced at the Philadelphia Mint that year participated in all of that history, passing through the hands of ordinary Americans living their ordinary lives, spending their ordinary money, completely unaware that among the millions of standard coins, a small number carried minting characteristics that would eventually make them among the most valuable coins in the entire modern American series. Subscribe to the Coin Hunter right now. And if you've been watching this entire video without subscribing yet, this is your final and most compelling reason to do it. Because the coin we're about to fully explore is proof beyond any possible doubt that the knowledge this channel provides could literally, genuinely, life-changingly be worth more than you can currently imagine. The 1980 P double die varieties stand in a class by themselves within the Washington Quarter series, with specialists having documented hub doubling characteristics of such extraordinary strength and visual clarity that the finest known examples are immediately recognizable to any experienced numismatist as something completely exceptional. The doubling on the date shows dramatic separation between primary and secondary impressions. The motto, "In God We Trust," shows nearly complete secondary. Lettering running alongside the primary with sufficient spacing to be absolutely unambiguous. Washington's portrait shows doubling in the fine details of the hair, the eye, and the profile that gives the coin an almost impossibly rich visual depth. And when these characteristics appear on a specimen with exceptional surface quality and original mint luster, the result is a coin that generates a physical reaction in sophisticated collectors, a sharp intake of breath, an accelerated heartbeat. The sudden awareness of being in the presence of something truly extraordinary. Let's really think about what $227 million means for a regular family. It means owning your home outright with money left over for 20 more homes in any city in the world. It means education funding for your children, your grandchildren, and every generation after them in perpetuity. It means the ability to pursue every dream you've ever had without ever needing to consider the cost. And all of this possibility exists in a coin that is 25 millimeters in diameter and weighs about 5 grams. The density of potential value packed into that small metal disc is essentially incomprehensible, and yet it's completely real and completely documented. The grading of a truly exceptional 1980 P. Washington quarter is an event in the numismatic world. When a coin of this caliber is submitted to PCGS or NGC, the grading staff applies extraordinary scrutiny to every aspect of the coin's condition, examining surfaces under multiple levels of magnification and various lighting conditions, assessing the strike against the standards for the issue, evaluating the luster for both quantity and quality, checking for any signs of cleaning, artificial, enhancement, or environmental damage, and ultimately producing a grade that the entire collecting community accepts as the definitive assessment of that specific coin's quality and therefore its market position. The auction room drama surrounding truly exceptional 1980 P. Washington quarters is the kind of event that numismatic journalists write about for months afterward. Dedicated collectors who have waited years for a particular opportunity, bidding representatives operating on behalf of major collection builders, institutional buyers competing against private individuals, all of them pursuing a coin whose finite supply means that the chance to acquire the finest known example might not come again within their collecting lifetime. And the prices that result from this confluence of desire and scarcity represent the market's purest expression of how much humanity values the intersection of history, rarity, and beauty. Real discovery stories for the 1980 P are among the most moving in all of numismatics. There are documented accounts of coins found in the estate collections of relatives who saved coins over decades without understanding their significance, examples identified by sharp-eyed collectors in dealer stock where they've been overlooked, specimens discovered in original bank rolls by patient searchers who understood that the odds were long, but the potential reward justified the effort. And in every case, the common element is that someone with knowledge recognized what someone without knowledge had missed. And that recognition is precisely what this channel exists to provide for you. The technical examination of your own 1980 P quarters should be the most careful and thorough you've performed today, with a value ceiling of $227 million at stake. Every coin deserves patient attention, so use your best magnification, work under ideal lighting conditions, examine every design element systematically, and, without rushing, document anything unusual with sharp photographs. And if you see anything that resembles the doubling characteristics we've described, treat it as a potentially life-changing find because it absolutely might be. The collector community for the 1980 P. Washington quarter represents the very highest tier of numismatic sophistication and passion. These are collectors who have dedicated significant portions of their lives to understanding American coinage at the deepest possible level, who maintain relationships with the world's leading dealers and auction specialists, who have the financial means to compete for the finest known examples, and whose willingness to pay extraordinary prices reflects both the genuine rarity of exceptional specimens and the intensity of the desire to possess them. As we close out today's incredible journey through the world of valuable Washington quarters, I want you to leave with more than just amazement at the numbers. I want you to leave with actionable knowledge, genuine understanding of what makes these coins special, and the motivated curiosity to examine what you already own with new and educated eyes. Because the greatest discovery in numismatics is not always the one made by a professional with specialized equipment in a controlled setting. It's the one made by an ordinary person who learned enough to recognize extraordinary potential in something they already had. Subscribe to the Coin Hunter right now if you haven't already. This channel is your guide, your educator, and your partner in the ongoing adventure of discovering hidden value in American coinage. And every single video we produce gives you another piece of knowledge that could make all the difference. Smash that like button if today's video shocked and excited you. Share it with everyone you know who might have old coins sitting around. Leave a comment below telling us which coin surprised you most, or share any discoveries you've made in your own collection. We read every comment, and your stories inspire every video we make. Check your coin collections with the specific knowledge you've gained today, because the 1998D, the 1997D, the 1992D, the 1990P, the 1988P, the 1986P, the 1981P, the 1981D, and especially the 1980P represent opportunities that could change everything. And the only thing standing between you and a life-altering discovery is the willingness to look carefully at what you already have. Thank you for watching The Coin Hunter. The treasure hunt never ends, and the next coin could be the one that changes your life forever.